are looking at the Quartetto range. I called it Quartetto because Quartetto is like 4, and so in here we've got 4 drawers. You've got 4 drawers in there. You've got 1 drawer in there, but you've got 4 sweeties, and this one, well, this one's an anomaly. I can never say that word, but you know what I mean. But yes, it holds a little chocolate in them. And so what I thought we'd do tonight is we're going to concentrate on these 2 sizes first, because then I'm going to give you some homework to go away and you can make your bases for your drawers ready for next week so that we can get these done. Okay, but I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go along. But I really love these. Now, as you can see here, now I've just done it plain, the top, but you can decorate up your boxes. Now this one has got a little thumb notch, and if I pull the drawer out, look at that, 4 chockies in there. They are Ferrero Rocher. I have designed the boxes so that they would take that, but they also take Lindt as well, and any other chocolates that you might want to pop in there. And you've got 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides to that one. So we're just going to pop that one to one side for the minute. This one is a little different. We've gone up to make it into like a little chest of drawers, and again that's got the chocolates in there as well. So that one we'll finish and do next week, and then we're just down to these 2, and it's like a little sandwich. And this one here is our 1 chocolate one, and then we've got our 4 chocolate one. But again, as I said, you can put in other chocolates as well, and you can decorate your boxes however you wish. So I think we'll get started. Hi Madeline, lovely of you to join us, thank you. So I'm just going to pop those up there out of the way. So I think what we'll do is, like last week when we made the little treat boxes, the origami treat boxes, we started off with the bigger one first, so you get an idea, and then we scaled it down to the smaller one. So that's what we're going to do. So I've already pre-cut everything ready, but obviously I'll do my scoring and cutouts and everything else as we go along. So I'm just going to unclip this. So these are all my papers. So I've gone for quite nice sort of muted patterns for this particular box. So I'm just going to pop them to one side. Okay, now when you're looking at your instructions, so your Quartetto Celebration chocolate box collections, if you turn it over here, the one that we're focusing on tonight is the basic flat box, the 4 Ferrero Rocher. Okay, so that's what we've got. So we've got our construction board, 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. So we need 2 of those. Now the next line on here, I've put top and bottom covers 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. So this is where you can make a slight tweak to the design. Now I've done these so that the card will or the construction board will sit in within the square, and then I'm going to wrap it. Okay, now I'm just wrapping it with the card, but if you want to, and you've got some of your lovely construction tape, okay, you can go round and do it that way. All right, and then you'll see later on where I've put in about adding your pattern papers, and that is obviously if you're going round with your construction tape all the way round, you're going to need something for the top and the bottom underneath. Okay, but when we come to that, I'll explain in a bit more detail. So I wanted to do it with these so that I can just show you how I've done that. And then I've got my internal box piece, and obviously my sleeve bit that we're going to do. So I think what we'll get done first is we'll get everything scored ready. Okay, and let's just pull up my lovely scoreboard. So for this one, the internal internal box is 8" by 8". It says score on all 4 sides. So I'm just going to sit that in the middle. That just sits in just nicely on this particular scoreboard. So I'm going to score 1 1/4 inch. So we're going to do 1 1/4 inch, and then we're going to do 2 1/2. Okay, and then I'm going to turn that round, and I'm going to do 1 1/4 inch, and then 2 1/2. And then we go around and we do exactly the same, 1 1/4 inch and 2 1/2. And then our final side is 1 1/4 and 2 1/2. So it ends up leaving you with a box in the center. Okay, because basically, oh, actually I've done that wrong. That should have been 2 1/2, Deb. Looked at that and I thought that's gone a bit squiffy. There we go. We're just right, that won't matter because when we fold that, you're not going to see that anyway. Okay, so as I was saying, so you then get a square in the middle. Let me just check, make sure I've done them right. I've had quite a busy week. I went up to see my son for a few days and only got back yesterday, and you know what it's like, yeah, then have to catch up with all your house chores and everything else. So it's been a bit bonkers in the house today, but it's all good. Lovely to see my son. Right, okay, internal drawer casing. Okay, so this is 5" by 9 1/2. So it does go off here slightly, but I should be all right with the scoring. So score on the 9 1/2 inch side. I'm going to score 1/2 inch. Okay, then I'm going to do 1 7/8. So that's 1 notch back from your 2. Then we're going to do 5 inches, and then 6 3/8, which is 1 notch back from your 6 1/2. And then we're going to turn it round, and on the 5 inch side, oh, I might have to move this up a little bit, we're going to score 3 inches and 1/8. And let's just move that up a bit. Okay, and then we're going to score 4 1/2. So we're going to do 4 1/2. Okay, I'll just take that down. Whoops, come on down. Honestly, Deb, what are you doing? 4 1/2. That's it, thank you. Perhaps I should have got my bigger scoreboard out. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to cut some of that out anyway. And then it says here on the 9 1/2 inch side, we're going to score some additional lines. We're going to score up 1 3/8 and 5 1/2. And this is going from the top of the sheet down to where the 3 1/8 line is. So if you look on your drawing that I've done, so we're going to add in these score lines here, and they're just coming down to this 3 1/8 line here. So you've got your little 1/2 inch one there, and then you come down. So the bigger gap you're leaving well alone. So when you look at it here, we're just coming from this top bit down to this second score line here. So we're doing that at 1 3/8. So 1 3/8, just down to that score line, and then the next measurement is at 5 1/2, and we're just coming down to do that. So hopefully you should end up with it looking like this, if everybody's okay with that. If you're all good, give me a thumbs up. That'll be lovely. Right, so we're just going to pop my scoreboard out on there. Now, still keeping with our casing, okay, what we're going to do is if you look at the diagram here, we're going to cut out a couple of bits, okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to make our like little casing bit as it folds around, so it sort of makes a little box. So if I just scribble on here, the bits that we're going to cut out, and I'll lift it up to the camera so you can see the bits that I've cut out. So here we go. So I've taken out like that 2 little boxes there, and then the next box is along. So I'm leaving this bit here. Okay, then we've got the long bit, and then I've taken out the rest of that. So hopefully everybody's okay with that. All right. And then what we're going to do is that with this bit here, a bit like we did last week with the origami boxes, we're going to sort of miter those corners a little bit so it all tucks in together. So I'm going to cut these bits out. So let's get my scissors, or you can cut it out with a craft knife, whichever's easiest. So I'm just going to cut along this score line. Okay, and we're just going to come down like so. Let's just take that off. There we go. Oh, haven't quite cut it far enough. There we are. There we are. Just tidy that up. That's all right, because that's going to get mitered. And then I'm going to come down like so. And then we're going to cut along here. Okay, and then because that bit is going to be our flap, so what we're going to do is we're going to now cut up to where this big long score line is coming all the way down, and I'm just going to miter that corner bit because I just want to create a little bit of a flap there. And I'm going to do the same on the other side so you can see what I've done. Okay, and then we're just going to cut that one out like so. And then this top bit here, I'm just going to cut right across, like almost through like a 45-degree angle, because so we're going to be taking out this little box here. So I'm just going to cut to there, and then I'm just going to like so. So we end it. So we're sort of creating a flap, okay. And then I'm going to do the same here. I'm just going to come into that little where the 2 score lines cross over. I'm just going to now give that a little bit of an angle there, and that is what we are aiming for. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that okay. If I just hold that up close, so you end up, you've got like this bit here, this is going to be a flap that's going to join the other end. Then we've got 1, 2, 3 flaps which are going to hold the sides together to create the casing for our drawer. Okay, now on these ones here we can just give that just a tiny little miter on that where that 1/2 inch score line is, just to sort of taper that in, and that is everything that we need to do for this one piece. Okay, and then while we've got it here, I'm just going to fold, let's just move my paper out of the way, I'm just going to fold and burnish so we get some nice edges on there, just to sort of create those nice crisp folds. And I'm going to do the other side like so, and like that. So you'll see that that will sort of come round like that, and then this bit will fit inside. So I'm just going to fold that over, and then I'm going to crease on the little flaps. There we go. Okay, and then the last flap like so. All right, so you should end up with all your parts there. So that's going to glue onto there, then that will glue down, that will glue in, and that sort of tucks in. So you end up creating yourself a little sleeve for your drawer. Now, when I was making these, I was tucking this one, when I was sort of designing it, tucking it inside. But I did notice that actually, when you look on the inside, you can still sort of see that when you're pulling the drawer in and out. So what we will do is that we'll tuck that one over onto the top. So the 3 at the back can go on the inside, but we'll put this one on the outside when we glue that together. Okay, so I would suggest now you can use red liner tape. I'm going to use a bit of bookbinding glue for mine, and I'm going to do one side first. I'm just going to hold that in situ for a couple of seconds, so we can just keep that nice and sharp on that corner, like so. I'm going to do the other side. We're just going to come in on the other side, like so, and we're just going to bring that one round and hold that in place. Again, making sure that we've got some nice sharp corners. Okay, so just holding that in place. There we go. Let's put that down. That's probably easier to hold it down like that. There we are. There we go. And then I'm going to run some glue on the outside, but the inside of this one. So this is like the back, and this is the front. Evening, Teresa, welcome. There we go. And I'm just going to fold that down over onto there. I'm just going to hold that in situ, and then I'm just going to add a little bit more glue onto that actually, because I need to bring right up to those edges. And then I'm just going to fold that over so that that last one on that side is on the outside. Right, and get my little burnish. Whoops, come out. There we go. And I'm just going to push that down on the inside just to hold that in place. Just make sure we've got that lined up, because we want to make sure it's nice and square. Just looking at mine, I think it's just moved a little bit. There we go. That's better. Right, okay. So while that is drying, we'll move on to our next bit. Okay, because we want that nice and sturdy for when we come to put it all together. Right, so I'm going to just tuck that over there out the way. Right, so let's come to our top and bottom cover. So that's going to be these bits, okay? And like I do in a lot of my albums, I'm just going to, especially if I'm covering it, I'm just going to ink these corners just in case when I cut it and do that mitered corner bit, just in case any of the construction board shows. So I'm just going to give this a little once over. Hopefully I will cut it and it will be fine, but you never know. You never know. So we're just going to ink that on that one, and then I think my Sharpie's running out actually. I'm going to have to get myself, I think I've got another one somewhere, but we're just going to do that. Now what I love about these is that these make such a good little gift idea, you know, and especially for teachers and things like that. And it's quite economical because you can make these and you just need to put 4 chocolates in, or you don't have to put chocolates in. I think you can actually fit, if you're making this for a teacher, you can actually fit in these the little sticky note pads as well, or other little bits and pieces. So you can utilize these in whichever way that you like. Okay. And but I've gone with chocolates because that's just me. Right, I'm going to just add a little bit of glue. I'm just going to pop that onto the centre. So you'll notice that the size of the card gives you a 1/2 inch border all the way round. So I'm just going to stick that on there, and we're just going to do the same on this one. And these really don't take that long to put together. If you can get everything cut out ready, it's like with anything. For me, it's always deciding what I'm going to cover them with. How am I going to decorate them and that. Okay, so we're just going to pop that on there. Now we've got a choice. We can either have these with glue, or we can use a bit of red liner tape. I think I'm just going to use a little bit of red liner tape. So it's like 2 wide. No, that's going to be fine, because I want to make sure that these are going to stick down properly, because we're wrapping over not a huge edge to it, but I want to make sure that it goes over nice and evenly. So I'm just going to pop a little bit red liner tape, but you don't have to use red liner tape. When we come to the corners, you can just add a little bit of glue. Whatever you've got is absolutely fine. Yeah, I'm using what one am I using? Not the 9mm, the 12 I think I'm using on here, and I'm just going to do the same on this one. Okay, again, these are great to get the kids involved in making. You know, if you can't get hold of construction board, you know, just stick a couple of layers of cereal boxes together. It's really, you know, utilise what you've got, really. It's all good. Plus, you don't have to make these for Christmas either. I mean, you could make these for birthday gifts or party favours or anything along those sort of lines. You know, so the choice is yours. Right, okay. So now I've put that red liner tape around, I'm just going to give these a little bit of a burnish. And then I'm going to mitre the corners. I'll just give these a little burnish like so. How's everybody doing? Hope we're all good out there. Oh yes, Sam, a bit of Amazon packaging always always around this time of year. Absolutely. I mean, you can use whatever, really. You know, we like to have options. Now, as I've said before, when we cut these corners off, you need to leave, when you cut straight across like so, you need to leave enough of the black card to come up that side. So you don't want to cut it right beside it. You want to come out a little bit to the depth of what the actual card stock is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come across here like so. So you can see I've left a little bit. So if I push that up, okay, it's a little bit deeper than probably what I would have done, but that's absolutely fine because I can tuck that in. But that's why we also colour in the corner, because if you do cut it too short, at least the construction board isn't going to show on the outside. So I'm just going to go around and cut these right across. But like I said, if you're using your construction tape to go around the edges, that's another way of doing that. So that's one done. And then we're just going to come and do the next one. Like so. And then at least we can get these covered, and then they can be drying while we make our drawer. box. There we go. Right, so that's those bits. So what I like to do is just give it a little movability. We're just going to ease those fibres so that that will wrap over. I'm going to do the same on the other side. And what we're going to do is we're going to do opposite sides. Okay, so we'll come back to this one. So let me just get my, so I'm just going to unhook on the red liner tape. Whoops, come here. There we go. All right, and I'm just going to ease that over, and as I push that over, I'm just making sure that that's nice and flat. Just give that little burnish, and then I'm going to do the other side. Actually, I'm going to see if I can peel that off. No. There we go. Right, and then I'm just going to ease that over, and again just run that over with the lovely burnish. That's it. Okay, and then when we come to do these bits, if you have gone over a little proud, you can just tuck in those corners just a little bit. Just give it a little push in there, and then I can take the rest of it off, and we can get that done. There we go. All right. I'm just going to put that over. Like so. That's it. And just give that a little burnish. Now I can see that on one of my corners I was slightly up, but it may be very hard to see because I've actually already covered it with that bit of the Sharpie pen. So good little tip there for everybody. Right, okay, I think this side is probably going to be better. There we go. Push that down like so. Right, and that is either our base or our top, and then we're going to repeat exactly the same on the other piece. So let's just take these off. Right, and again I'm just doing opposites. There we go. I'm just going to turn that round and take off the other bits. Like so. There we are. Now, if you're doing it with the black tape, you probably would have got this all done and dusted by now already. But I like to show people what to do if they haven't got the construction tape. Right, I'm just going to tuck in those corners again, and then I can come in and do that. I suppose if you was making a lot of these, then the construction tape is probably the quickest way of doing it, but you know, everyone to their own. Right, okay. And we're just going to peel off that last bit. Can I just get that bit out? No, I need my lovely pokey tool. Come on. Right, let's put those bits in the bin out the way. And there we are. And I'm just going to fold that over and I'm going to burnish that. So here we are. We've got our top and our bottom, and we've got our internal sleeve. So you can see already how this is sort of going to go together, and it sort of makes a bit like a sandwich. Reminds me of like one of those ice cream sandwiches where you'd have wafers and a bit of a sliced block of ice cream. They were the days. We used to have block ice cream. Don't know if anybody else remembers those, or is it just me? It's probably just you, Deb. Right. Okay. So we're coming back to our eternal box. All right. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to cut out some of these squares. So I'm just going to, so this L shape that comes around here, where you've got in each corner where you've got those 4 even squared scores of the squares here, we're actually going to take out the 3 on each one. So I'm just marking these up with the pencil, 1, 2, 3, like so. So you can see we're taking out these ones here, but we're leaving this one in the center because that's going to hold everything together when we fold it over and everything else. We're going to take out these 3. So let's just cut those out. So I'm just coming down to that score line. I'm going to come along and cut like so. Here we go. So you end up with an L shape gone. Okay, so we're going to do that on all 4 corners. So okay, here we are. And then we're going to move on to the 3rd corner. Just cut these out. So here we go. I'll cut that one enough. No, it didn't quite go up to that one. Didn't think I had. There we are. 1, 2, 3, and then the final corner. Like so. There we go. And then we're going to take out that last one. All right. Right, so we can take those and move those out the way because we don't need those. So you should be left with something that looks like that. Okay, how's everybody doing? Everybody with me? Those of you that are crafting along. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cut just down one side of this remaining square. But what you need to remember is that you need to cut down that square exactly the same all the way round, because otherwise we're not going to have anything to hold it together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have this bit in front of me and I'm just going to cut up that one side up to that next score line. So you end up with a little bit of a flap there. Then I'm going to turn it round. Where I've got that there, I'm just going to cut that up to that point. Okay, and I'm going to turn it round, and again where I've got this bit here, I'm going to cut up to that score line so it gives me that little flap. Then I'm going to turn it round again and I'm going to do exactly the same. So I should have like 4 little flat bits going all the way round. Now when we come to put our box together, now I've written all over that, but that's going to be on the base. But I just need to, where did I put my lovely rubber? When I went away the other weekend, I moved all my bits around in my drawers, and do you think I can find where I put everything? Did I put it in this drawer? No, I didn't put it in that drawer. Did I put it in that drawer? No, I didn't put it in that one. Where's me? I think I've got a rubber on the end of a pencil somewhere. Oh, there we go. Right, okay, I'm just going to rub that off before we fold it because it will be easier. Right, okay. So where we've got these little flap bits, okay, and we've got these bits here. Now this bit is going to fold over. So what I want to do, I just want to very finely take a slither off here. So I'm just giving this a little trim, but I'm doing it at an angle. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. So rather than cutting it straight, I've just come in at an angle, because when we fold it over, we don't want it bulking up in the corners. So I'm just coming in and just cutting literally a little slither off of that at an angle to help when we fold this box. And I'm going to do that on all of those pieces. Okay, and as you can see with these bits that I'm cutting off, it's not very big, because we want the sturdiness, but we do want it to sit quite nice in the corners as well. So I'm just taking a tiny bit and just cutting it at an angle, and then we come down like so. Okay, right, like that. All right, so once you've gone around and done all of those, we're then going to do the same on the flaps. So where we've got these little flaps, again, I'm just going to come in and take a tiny little bit off on both sides. Okay, turn that round. I'm going to come and do that on that side, and then again on that side. And I just sort of trim off these, because that will just help when we come to glue it and stick it together. Right, that's where the flap bit is. Just trim that. Trim that. Okay, so when I put this on the side here, you can see where the little gaps are where I've cut and trimmed that. Okay, so the next part of this would be to fold on all the score lines. Okay, we're not going to glue it together just yet, because we do need to put in our little draw pull. Okay, but I'll tell you what you need to do if you're not doing a draw pull. So I'm just going to fold over all these and just give them a crease. So like so. So I'm just doing the outer ones first, and then I'm going to go in and do the inner ones like so. There we are. So I'm just folding these all, giving them a burnish, and then I'm going to go around and do the tabs. So we've just given it a bit of memory, like so. There we go. All right. Now, if you are going to put one of these little draw pulls in, okay, we need to put it in now, because once we've made the box, otherwise we're going to find that you're going to see the mechanism on the other side. So we need to put this in first. Now, where's my little box? So just going to take that one of these out. Okay, and you'll notice that for this particular size that I've got, that these, I suppose you can call them fasteners, are a lot bigger. If I'm putting the ring pull so it drops down like that, come over that gap, so I will need to trim them down a little bit. All right, now when we're coming to fold this together, we're going to fold it so that that tucks in, and then this one will go over the top. Yeah, so it's going to be quick. Do that. How will you decorate the front? Absolutely, Deborah. So this is what we're going to look at here. So this is what I wanted to go through and explain to you about this. So the idea is that we would poke a hole through and put put that through, okay, but we will need our little bit of pattern paper for what we're going to put on here. So it's just this front piece, okay, that is going to need that adding to it if you are going to be using one of these. So you will need to go through your patterned paper and the black card underneath to poke that through, so that this end flap here will then go over and cover that mechanism on the inside. All right, so that's one way of doing it. Now on one of the others, let me just so on the flat box I cut out a notch, okay, so if you haven't got one of these, then you can do a notch on it. All right, and what I used was a notch punch, but if you haven't got one of those, you can use a circle punch to cut that out. But you wouldn't do that until after you've put your box together, because then you would stick that on and then you would punch out your circle. Okay, so you've got two choices. Now if you haven't got these ring pulls, what you can do is actually use is maybe just thread a little bit of baker's twine through, in which case I would put that on, I would poke a hole, I would do a loop of baker's twine or ribbon, tie the knot in the end, and then I would close that in and fold that down so it's secure, and then you don't see it on the inside. So you've got a couple of options there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this onto here, but first of all I'm going to stick this on because I've already gone round and inked and faux stitched it. Okay, actually let's come round. I think I'm going to do it opposite to where I double scored it, so that score bit goes on the back. So that's where I'm going to stick that down. So let's just add a little bit of glue. So you have some choices, okay? But if you haven't got anything and you want to do the circle punch to make the little notch bit, then that's absolutely fine, and you can do that after you've made your box. But we're just going to stick that on there like so, and this is quite a snug fit. All right, so I'm just going to put that on there. I'm just going to work out where my center point is. So this was 2 7/8, so let's just move that. So 1.5. Let's have a little look. That was 1.25. So I'm going to come in about there. I'm just going to mark tiny little pencil mark about the center point, and I'm just going to poke a hole through, preferably not my finger. No, I'm good, I'm all good. The amount of times I've nearly done that. Right, okay, so I'm now going to pop my little drawer front, as it were, my little drawer pull through the hole. Okay, so I'm doing this, as you can see, on that inner panel, because this bit will fold over. I'm going to need to make sure that that is straight before I fix that down. But because I know that that is going to be too big, I'm just going to take my Tim Holtz scissors, because these are really good for doing stuff like that, and I can just cut off these bits here. All right, let's just put those metal bits away, and I'm just going to push that down nice and flat. Make sure that I've got that nice and level. And what I am going to do is just add a little bit of black tape to that, just to cover it, so that nothing sharp sort of comes through the inside of the box. Okay, so that is my drawer pull all done. Let's just give that a good push. There we go. Make sure that's nice and flat. Okay, so now that is nice and secure, I can now get on with gluing my drawer together. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some glue on one flap. We're going to hold that in, okay, and then we are going to put glue on the next one and the next one, so we end up with it looking like quite a tall box. All right, so the easiest way to do it is just give these outer flaps just a little fold back, just to help you get into these bits when we glue these together. Okay, so I am using my lovely bookbinding glue, but again, you can put red liner tape on here if you wanted to. That's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to hold that in, and I'm just making sure that I've got a nice sharp corner. Okay, so that's just holding that piece into place, and then going to add some glue on there, and I'm just going to tuck that one round and just hold that into place. So we're just allowing that a little bit of bonding time, and then I'm going to come round and do the third one. Now obviously you can probably leave yourselves a little bit more time depending on what glue you're using, but obviously I'm just sort of pushing through this, but there we go. And then our fourth one, which is a little bit tricky to get into, just going to, that's it, fold that in, and then I'm going to hold that one like so. Okay, so they are my 4 little flaps that I've just folded inside. Okay, so I'll just show you how they've gone in. So you can see why we had to cut the flaps the right way, because otherwise we might have a corner that doesn't have anything to grip to. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on these, and then these will fold over. And the reason why I've done this extra flap bit is because it gives us a nice smooth edge to the top rather than a cut edge. So I'm just going to add some glue, and then we're going to fold these in as well. Okay, let's just add a little bit of glue. Plus, when you fold this over, it's going to grip that, grip the little flap that's gone over. That will hold that into place as well. So it just firms that up even, makes it even stronger. Okay, and you can see why as well. We just trimmed off just a fraction of these flaps as well, just to help, so we don't get a lot of bulk in the corners. What we do need, Deb, is some glue. Come on. There we go. I'm getting there. Right, I think I'm going to swap that one over for another one that's got a little bit more in it. That's better, because we could be here all night otherwise. Okay, right, so just going to tuck that one over like so, and then we're going to do the same on the other 2. There we go. Right, I'm just going to fold that in, and then I'll go round with my lovely burnish. Here we are. I'm just going to give those a nice crease and make sure that those flaps have gone in nicely. And there we are. And that is our little drawer, which, fingers crossed, is going to slide in to our casing, like so. Okay. So the next part then is really the decoration. Okay. So we've got our top and our bottom. Now I have put on the pattern when it's come to, I put here coordinating papers, top and bottom, inside. Okay, so what I mean by that is if you're going with a particular theme of colour on your boxes, okay, that you might want some contrasting colour paper to go on the inside. So these bits are my contrasting, okay, and then this will be going on the top because it will tie in with what's going to go round on the sides. Okay, that's why I've just put it on there, just to give it a little bit different, but you don't have to. You can have it all the same paper. I mean, when I made this one, I have used I used this one for the top, and then I've used the same paper for the underneath as well as round the side. So you know, it's up to you what you want to do in terms of decorating. Okay, so I'm going to stick these on. Now again, if you had gone round with your construction tape, now obviously this one is going to cover those folded edges here, but then you'll find that you'll have a blank one. So when it comes to the top, you'll cover that with the top, but your base one won't have anything on there. And I do believe I've put on there that you can, on the outside, I put here where it says top and bottom outside, I put ×2 or 1, and that's why I put that on there. Okay, because you might only need 1 for the bottom if you've covered the whole thing with paper, but you might need 2 if you've gone round with the construction tape. Okay, so that's why I've put that on there. Now, as always, I've gone round and I've inked my edges, and I've gone around and faux stitched. Now some of you might be thinking, oh yeah, but why, Deborah, why are you putting paper on the bottom if you're going to stick the other casing bit on top? Well, actually you get to see some of this on the inside. So where I've stuck that down, and again I allow for about 1/8 of an inch black border with my measurements, but again you can change it if you don't like that, because then when I sit that on there you will see some of that paper underneath. Okay, that's why I've done that. All right, you don't have to, totally your choice. Okay, so I'm just going to add this glue on here with the little stripies like so, and again I'm allowing 1/8 of an inch around like so. Okay, and then I'm just going to, so one of these will be the base, one will be the top, so I think I'll go with that one for the top, and I've already cut my top piece out like so. There we go, and I'm just going to pop that on there, so I now know that that is the top. Again, just need to straighten that. Now I've gone with fancy printed paper, but you could go with something plain and add embellishments and all sorts of bits to yours if you want to. That's your choice. Okay, so that's my top and my bottom. Now I've also put a measurement on there for something to go on the inside, the little internal base drawer. Okay, so that is just going to tuck on the inside, so it just finishes off the drawer. So we're just going to do that. I'm just going to tuck that in, and that should be a fairly decent fit, because that's quite nice then, because when you open up the drawer and that, you've got the pattern paper, depending on what you're going to be putting in there, you know, so it just finishes it off. Okay, and then we've got the side panels for the outside of our box. Okay, and these again I've pre-cut and inked and scored, so I'm just going to stick them on now. Well, you can do these right at the end. You can you know, once we've got the top and the bottom on, but I'm going to do it now. It just makes it easier to hold it. And again, I'm just allowing that, just making sure that's nice and straight. And I'll put the Noel at the back, I think, like so. So you can see how quickly these come together. Absolutely. And you can do these with all sorts of papers and stuff like that. I just love it. I mean, you could, instead of using black cardstock, you could make this out of craft card or other coloured cards and sort of decorate it however you wish. You could make them in white and have some nice things on there, maybe, or ivory for weddings. But as I said, the choice is yours. Okay, so they're my external pieces added on to my sleeve. There's my little drawer that's going to go in there. So I'm just going to tuck that in there now, because we need to put these together. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to use some red liner tape because I want it to be able to hold it quite sturdily. Sturdily? Is that a word? Sturdy? I want to be I don't want them to be moving, and I want it to grip. Okay, and because these bits are a little bit flimsy, that's why we're going with a bit of red liner tape. Now I have got the big stuff. I've got this one 25 millimeters. So I'm just going to put a couple of strips of this across. I might get 3 across. Obviously, if you've got less, you just need, you know, I've got it the wide stuff. You might need to put in an extra few. So I'm just putting this across. 1 at each end, like so, and then 1 down the middle, and then I'm going to flip it and do exactly the same on the other side. We do sell this red liner tape in the shop. Get a whole 50-metre roll. So it lasts forever. Look at the size of that. It's really chunky. Right, okay, so I put that going that way. Right, so we're going to have this going the same. So again, add in a little bit on here. If you don't have red liner tape, then obviously just go with your glue. But I just find it's, for these particular jobs, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, and I'm just going to cut that bit. That's sticking to my scissors there. Oh, I've lost the end. Where's the end gone? Oh, there it is. Right, okay, and then 1 more strip down the middle, like so. Okay, right, I'm just going to take that drawer bit out, turn it over so I can burnish that. It gives me a bit of a firmer base. Right, okay, now we've done that, we've just got to do the last little bit, which is to add our drawer. I'm just going to trim that red bit off there a bit. It's just come over the edge. There we go. To our base and then our top. So I just need to make sure that I've got my word in, because I have got directional paper on here, is the right way round. And I'm just going to peel these off. I will add a bit of glue for a little bit of wiggle room, because you've got to have a little bit of wiggle. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Gonna add our squeaky glue. The squeaky glue is back. Okay, and then you really just have to go for it. I mean, you could measure it out, but I I'm just going to go for this, and I'm just going to try and centre. So you should have about a quarter, roughly a quarter of an inch, if that, going all the way round. I'm just looking, I haven't pushed it down, I'm literally just letting it fall gently on there. Right, I think we are sort of there. Right, I'm going in with my burnish tool, and now I can push that down, so that is going to firm that up. Okay, so that is now well and truly stuck on there. That's not going anywhere. Okay, I'm going to turn my box upside down because I want a little bit of firmness when I come to put the lid on, as it were. And again, because this is the front with the drawer, I need to make sure that my lettering is the right way. So again, I'm going to turn that over. I've got everything going the right way, I'm literally just going to flip this over onto here, and I'm going to do exactly the same with the glue, bit of wet glue, and then we're going to do that like so. And again, now because I've got this bit on there, I can sort of help it with a bit of a guide. So I'm gently dropping it on there, and if I put that level, I can almost wiggle that round to make sure that that sits flat on everything else. And I think that has gone not quite to the back. Let's just bring that to the back just a fraction. This is why we have glue on it. Okay, right, now I can sandwich that. I can take that drawer out, put it round the right way, and voila, there is our flat drawer that holds our 4 chocolates. I've got some chocolates here. I've decided to go with some other chocolates instead of so you can fit 4 comfortably in there. You could even squeeze a 5th one in, but there we are. And then we've got the little drawer pull out, and that is all done as a lovely little gift. And as I said, you could, you know, if you went with something plain on the top, you can decorate it, maybe put Merry Christmas, or you could add a tag to it if it was a little gift or something like that. Doesn't have to be Christmas paper. You could wrap it in something else, you know. Be good for putting all your little crafting bits in. Maybe wrap it in crafting paper or something. I don't know. But anyway, that is that one done. How's everybody getting on? You're all very quiet out there. I'm hoping everybody's all okay. So I'm just going to clear the sides while I get the next bits ready that I've done for our little dinky one, our little tiny one. It's so cute. Look at this, it's just so cute. Sort of little drawer bit comes out. Right, let's have a little go. So now everybody's got an idea of where we should be going with this. We should be able to zoom through this fairly quickly. So I'm just going to pop that on there. They're my little squares, my covers. These are my internal drawer and my casing. So I'm just going to put those to one side. So while everybody's just okay, but messed up on the measurements on the drawer. Okay, all right, well, we're going to go through it on the smaller one, Sam, so hopefully that'll be okay. All right, so again, I'm just going to ink and do these like I've done before. I'm just going to, oh my goodness, I can hear it chucking it down with rain outside. I said the weather would be changing. It's meant to be getting a lot colder next week as well, so good job we're tucked up indoors crafting is all I have to say. Okay, right, and then we're just going to do this one. So I'm just going to carry on with these, give everybody a shot. So I really love the little dinky ones. You know how I like little dinky things, like my Dinky Winky Doodah album. Love it. Right, okay, so I'm going to stick these on. Okay, and I'm just going to put some glue on the back. Right, I'm just going to glue those on. Now, because these are slightly smaller, I'm going to use obviously a thinner red liner tape just to go round and do these. But again, if you're doing the construction tape, you don't need to do it this way. But we will crack on with that. Right, so where's my slightly thinner one? Let's use that one. Okay, it's always good to have a selection of different sizes for your red liner tape, you know, because depending on the project that you're doing, just helps with that. And I think we've got quite a few different sizes. I have just glued my drawer to the base. Okay, Deborah, so I think the key thing is that get yourself, I don't know, what glue have you used? Did you put red liner tape on it? Because if that's the case and you can prise it off your base, then what I would suggest is cut yourself another piece of cardstock the same size as your drawer base and stick that on it so it covers up all your you know, the paper's ripped or anything like that, my lovely. Okay, you know, so you could, you know, there's one way around it, but see if you can try and get it off your base. Oh, bless you. Oh dear. I often find these small little challenges of when things go wrong, and you know me, when I'm doing my stuff, you know, invariably things do go wrong. So we are all in good company, Deborah, so please don't worry about it. But if you can get it off, then great, and then just line it with another bit of cardstock, so that will take up all the stickiness stuff, and then you've got a nice, dare I say, smooth bottom to your drawer. Okay, right, so I've just gone round and done those, and now I'm just going to cut my corners. So I'm just going to come out just a little bit, because I think this cardstock I've got here is a little bit thicker than what I used on the other one. Because guess what? I'm using my scraps, everybody. I mean, that's what I've been using for all of these little projects and things, is using up a load of scraps and stuff that I had knocking about. So it's a great little scrap buster, these are. Does it look nice? That's good. I'm so pleased. Right, let's just put those in. Right, okay, so I'm just going to give these a little fold. Yeah, this particular construction board I've got for the small one is definitely on the thicker side. So I'm so glad I went round and did the corners. because I think I might have some showing. Right, okay, so we're just going to do this. Okay. Alright. Okay. You've cut your little bases wrong. How have you managed that, Sam? Deborah, I'll have a look at your picture that you've pinged through. They are 2 by 2. Let me have a little look. For the little ones, the bases should be 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. Oh, I see, you've cut them. Do you know what? At the end of the day, I wouldn't stress too much. It just means that your paper is going to come in 1/8 of an inch. So you might not need to put your paper on there. All right. So don't worry. It's absolutely fine. You know, it's just why we do this stuff, you know. And the thing is that you can always go back and watch the video afterwards again. But yeah, often or not, it happens. I mean, even for me, and I designed the thing, I still get it wrong. So I wouldn't worry. Okay, don't worry, I'll cut it again. Okay, no problem. Okay. So we'll just sort of tuck those bits in, like so. Right, okay, so that's that one done. These little ones are so dinky. I do like these little ones. Now, I was planning on putting a pull-through drawer thingy on here, but I think I might actually do the well, mind you, the notch won't really fit in on there. I think that's the reason why I didn't do that, actually. So if you guys can hang fire until we do the notches next week, I think that's the reason why I didn't do the notch on that one, because it was quite tiny, and my notch is quite, it's going to sound really weird, and my notch is quite big and it won't fit in the drawer. I mean, when do you get to say things like that? You know, my notch is too big, apparently, for the drawer size. So, yeah. Honestly, I'm just glad we are in good company. Because I think anybody would be thinking, what on earth is she going on about? Right, okay, so while I've got these here, I'm just going to stick on my my little bit. So I've got some nice little robins. Now, again, these are directional. So I'm just going to stick these down while I've got these out. So making sure that my robins are going the right way. And then I've got some nice robins on this bit of card here. So I'm just going to glue these on. And then they can be drying off. And again, I'm leaving that sort of 1/4 of an inch sort of gap going round. Oops. You had it straight, Deb, and then you moved it. What are you doing? Okay. That's it. Right, okay. And then I'm just going to add this one on. So again, these are just scraps that I had in my drawer. I thought it was quite sweet. It's got a little bit of glitter to it, a little bit of sparkle. We like that. Okay. Right, that's that one. And then I'm going to put the lid on, so I know which side, which piece I'm going to use for the top and for the bottom. I'll just decorate these as they go along. And again, I've inked around them and faux stitched, even all the tiny little fiddly bits. There we go. Right, so there those, that's my top and my bottom base done ready. Okay, so let's get the card stock in, and we're going to do the scoring. So hopefully that's given everybody a chance to get caught up. Right, okay, so for this one, the internal box are square. So we are going here, I've put here basic mini flat box, one Ferrero Rocher, just to give you an idea which one it is. So the internal drawer casing and the actual box itself. So the internal drawer, we need to, so it's 6.5 by 6.5 inches in square, and we are scoring on all four sides at 1.25 and 2.5 inches again. So exactly the same measurements as before. So 1.25, 2.5, and then we're going to turn that round. 1.25, 2.5, and then we come round again. 1.25, 2.5, and then our final is 1.25 and 2.5. We'll just get my rubber, just going to take that pencil mark out like so. So that's all done. Now you will notice that the measurements on here doesn't quite give us a complete accurate square. I'm just double checking that I've done those right. Yeah, so when we come to make the casing, there will be one way of for the drawer to fit in better than the other. I don't quite know how that worked out like that, but it did. You'll see what I mean when we come to do it. Right, so the internal drawer, I'm scoring on the 6.5 inch side. We're scoring a 1/2 inch. Then 1 7/8, 1 7/8. Then 3.5. Then 4 7/8. And then on the 3 3/8 side, we are scoring 1.5 and 2 7/8. And then like we did before, we are scoring, going back to the 6.5 inch side, where we've got some other measurements that are just going to come down just to our score line, our 1.5 inch score line. So this is our 1.5 inch score line, this bottom one here. So what we're going to do is score up 1 3/8, 1 3/8 down to that score line there, and 4 inches, and we're coming in and we're just coming down to there. Okay, so that's again how we ended up. So you can see why I said it's easier to show you how to do it on the bigger one first before we come to do it on the smaller one. Right, I'm just going to rub out that pencil mark. I'd love to know where my rubber's gone. It's disappeared. Okay, and then we're going to cut out those squares again, and then we're going to do our mitering on our flaps, as it were. All right, so let's just get these cut. So I'm going to cut all the way in to that score line, and then we're going to come down like so, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. Down to the score line, and we're going to turn that round. Like so. So you end up with that sort of shape, and then I'm going to come in and just do a little angle just to create the flaps on both sides. Come in a bit more. There we go. I'm just going to cut that down like that. Alright, and then I'm just going to do make the flaps at the top and the sides. Right, okay, and then we're going to do the same coming in on there, like so, and then we're going to come and do our little bit there. Okay, so that is our casing done. So we're just going to glue that together so that can be drying. Okay, and again, the outer flap bit we're going to have on the outside. So I'm just going to fold all these and give them a quick burnish. Little burnish. Here we go, Bernie. There we are. Like so. And fold those, 1, 2. There's another burnish, and that one. Okay, and then our final one. Right, so they've all been burnished, and now we're just going to glue these together. So these will come round again, and then that last flap will come over on the outside as opposed to the inside. Okay, so let's just glue that together, and then that can be drying while we crack on with our little box. So I'm just gonna do all 3 sides because this is a lot smaller to handle, so it's probably easier just to 1, 2, 3, just hold those in situ, and then add a little bit of glue on there. That's it, and that will come around on the outside. Okay, and I can just hold that down. Just going to go in with my burnish tool just to make sure that they have stuck. So there is our little casing for our drawer. So you will see that this is not quite square, it's almost slightly rectangular. Okay, so when we come to add this on to our base, you'll notice that it won't quite sit as square as the other one. It's almost, but it's, I don't know why it turned out like that. I've got no idea, but it's just a fraction out. I think maybe where you do the scoring, but that's that. So I'm just going to pop that to one side. And then we're going to do the same again. We're going to cut out these corners that we did, that little L shape. And then we're going to shape the flaps and everything else as well. So we'll just cut these out. Like so. Now you could, I suppose, make all of this out of patterned paper. You know, you could make your drawer out of patterned paper and your casing out of patterned paper, so you wouldn't necessarily have to cut pieces of patterned paper to sit on it. You know, you could make the whole thing out of that. As I always say, you know, the choice is yours, but this is what I love about crafting, because you get so many different options of what you can do. What I've seen, which is really nice actually, is something very similar to this, where it's been done out of book paper, you know, printed text and stuff like that. Looks quite nice, where it's been sort of distressed and everything. So yeah, so I think there's lots of papers and stuff that you can use to create your little drawer sets. Right, okay. Alright, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now the 4th one. Okay. So these are all slightly the rectangular, they've got a slightly rectangular feel to them, so they're not completely square, but they will fit nicely into our little drawer case. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the flaps. So again, I've got this one at the front, and I'll just cut down to that next line and then turn it, and then I'm going to cut again and turn that, and then I'm going to cut again, and then I'm going to cut that last one. Then I'm going to taper these outer flaps. I'm going to fold over so we get those nice corners. Okay. It's all about, I suppose this is the easiest way of trying to, you know, making sure that you've done it on all of them, is just to sort of go around one bit at a time. Well, it's easier for me. I don't know. You might like to do them all in one go, but I like to sort of do one piece, turn it around, do the next bit, so I know I've done all four sides, so nothing gets missed. Right, okay, and that's the fourth side, and now I can trim down the individual little flaps. Just take off slither on each one. There we go. Like so. That's it. And then the next one. That. There we go. I'm going to come and do that one, and then the last one. Okay. And then once we've done that, we're just going to fold all the score lines just to get some memory going in there before we sort of start putting it all together. So there we are. It looks a weird shape, doesn't it? Right, so I'm just going to fold in. Fold the flap. So sit with those nice sharp edge too. Right, okay. And oops, come back out the way. And then the flaps are going to be folded and scored. There we go. Just on the score line. Lovely jubbly. All right, now then, I know I said, right, my notch punch, let me just get this out. You see, my notch punch is too big to fit in the whole thing and punch it, unless I do it on the outside before I glue the thing together. But the trouble is that both these flaps, well, that flap has got to go underneath, so I've got to try and get that central. This is why I was having problems. So if you think that's my corner, that's the next flap for that, and I've got to try and get that in centered as much as I can, and it is a bit of a squeeze. Okay, that's why I went for the draw pull. However, let's get, what's this, 3/4 of an inch. So let's just try something, because you know me, I like to, so where that's gone in like so I've just literally tucked that in. I'm just wondering whether I can fit that in any easier. It's a bit tight. And again, trying to get it central without ruining the box was just not gonna happen. So that was my dilemma, hence why I went for the little draw pull. Okay, But let's not go with the draw pull. Let's change it up a little bit, and I'm going to go with a little bit of baker's twine just to show you what I meant. So I'm just going to cut myself a little length like so. Let's tuck that back in like that. Now with the sides that we're working with, let me get my pieces here. That's going inside, and I think I had that to be the front bit because those are going to be the side panels. So I'm going to stick that on there. So it's just giving you another idea. Okay, I know I talked about it with the other one, but so let's just do it, and then you can see what I mean. All right, so I'm just going to pop that in there. Okay, just give that a second to dry. Oh, left that in the bottom of my, tuck that away. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke a hole, and I'm actually going to push that through the hole and tie a little knot. So I'm just looking for the center point. I think we're going about there. I'll come over just a little bit. Right. Okay, so I've got to try and push those through. Right, whoops. I thought, why is that not coming through right? So I'm just going to pull that through like so, because I need a little bit there to do that. So I'm just going to hold that. While that's flat, I'm just going to tie a knot. As I said, you could do this with a very fine ribbon. So I'm just going to tie another little knot. So I've sort of double knotted that. So that's not going anywhere, but I'm going to trim these ends off, and I'm going to back it with a bit of the black tape. Oh my goodness. Some of my scissors are so bad at cutting material. So, right, okay. All right, so it's nearly lost it through there. Right, let's pull that back through. Right, a little bit of black tape just going on there. Oh, that's a big bit of tape. I forget it's a smaller box. Right, I'm just going to tuck that over there, onto there, like so. So now we've got a little pull bit there. That's not going anywhere. Okay, so now I just need to do like I did before, is glue it together. So I'm just going to fold these outer flaps back, just so it makes it easier. And because this is quite tiny, we've got these, the flaps are a bit bigger like that. Let's just whack that one round on there. It might get a little bit fiddlier as we get into the center point. Right, let's glue on that one. And let's stick that on like so. There we go. Some glue on that one. Just tuck that round. Hold that into position. Oops, come back. There we go. And then the last one, which is a little bit fiddly because I've now got to try and bend that round and into there. That's it, without getting everything else. There we go. I folded that in on the inside. A little bit of glue. And there we go. And that is our little box. drawer. That part done. And then we're just going to add some, let's see, add a little bit of glue there. Add some glue on the outer flaps, and then these can get folded over. And then I'm just going to use the bone folder just to give that a good spread there. There we go. Right, and then we can get these last ones in. Right, so I'm going to just do these all together. I think that just makes it easier. There we are. Right, I'm going to fold these in. 1, 2, 3. Get the bone folder and just give that a really good rub down so that glue sticks. Right. And there we are. So we've got a tiny little pull for our, instead of a little drawer pull. Okay, let's just tuck that, it's not quite sticking down on that side. Give that a little bit more of a, there we go, that's better. And then I've got my little square that will sit in on the inside of the drawer. So I'm just going to add that. There we go. Right, now because this is directional, just want to make sure that it's going the right way inside the drawer. Nice little snug fit on there. Okay, that just sort of finishes it off. That's going to tuck in to my little drawer casing. Lovely jubbly. Right, and now I'm just going to put my little robins on the outside before I stick this to the, right, there we go. Now you will notice that these are not quite as deep as the depth of that, but I've gone with the thickness of the cardstock that's actually on the drawer. Okay, but if you want to alter yours, you are more than welcome. Right, so just got to make sure my robins are up the right way. Like so. There we go. Now you could, if you wanted, rather than do little panels like this, you could just do a strip to go all the way round to cover the side of your boxes. If that was another option, you can do that as well. So I'm just tucking that on there. Okay, so it's just trying to get those in. So I've gone for a slightly contrast paper, so I've gone for the same paper on the bases as I have for the sides, and then we're just going to sort of stick this down like we did before. So I'm just going to get my red liner tape, but because this is quite wide, I think I'm just going to go with one strip on here, just down the middle, because I will add a bit of glue to it as well. Like so, there we go. And I'm just going to flip that over and do that on the other side. There we go. Right, just give that a quick burnish. And just like we did before, I'm just going to peel that off, add a bit of glue. Now, because my paper is directional, I need to make sure that I've got it going the right way. Okay, so my lovely robins. So there's my drawer, which is up the right way. There's my robins there. So I'm just going to sit that centered. Right, I'm just going to take that drawer out so I can now push that down. so. There we go, make sure those edges are done. And then we're just going to do the top. I'm going to turn that box upside down so it's nice and gives me some sturdy for it to rest on. Bit of glue, a little bit of wiggle room, and just going to make sure that I've got my robins going on the right side. So just do my little sandwich. Whoops. A tricky little thing. Come back. Right, okay. I'm going to stick that on there. Make sure that that is fairly centered. There we go. Just make sure that is square. There we are. Right, so I can now turn that around, making sure that that is relatively level. And there we are. One of our little ones. And my robins are all up the right way, which is good. You don't want an upside down robin. Not really. Right, and then I'll just get my little chocolate. So we're going to tuck one of those in there. And we've got our little pull there. And there we are. And that is our 2 smaller boxes from the Quartetto range that we have completed tonight. I'll just have a quick tidy up. So as always, please do pop photos of your finished boxes onto our Facebook page, because it's great to see how everybody else has decorated them and sort of finished them off, which is really lovely. So the subtle difference here is that I've used a bit of baker's twine instead of one of the drawer pulls. Obviously I've used the drawer pulls on these ones. Okay, now I had some silver ones which I thought went really nice with the blue paper, but I've gone a bit antique gold. And actually if you saw me make the Halloween lantern the other week, where we used some of the sort of like the gilding cream and that, you could actually gild down some of your edges just to give it a more antique-y look if you wanted, if that's the look that you're going for. So yeah, you know, there's lots of options for these. So there are little boxes done. Okay, now as I said, next week we are going to be making our 4-drawer one, and we will be, yes Deborah, I do want you to post and our flat 4-drawer one. So what I thought we'd do is I'm going to set you some homework, and that is just to make up for the 4-drawer one, is to make up your base boxes, but don't glue anything down. If you prep them ready, okay, but don't glue them into a box, because in case you're putting the drawer thingies on or the notches, and I'll show you how to do that. But certainly you can get your other box tops and bottoms done, and then I'll show you what I did with the sides. Okay, and then the same for this one. I'll show you how to do the notches, so you can get your boxes prepped ready, but don't glue them together. Okay, and you can get your side bits done as well. I will go through it one more time next week anyway, just to show how to make one of the drawers. But once you've got that drawer base sorted, then the rest of it is fairly straightforward. Now the other thing that I was going to say is with this one, now although I've made this one, and because I've done it in Christmas paper, I have been asked to make some for somebody as a more permanent fixture, as it were, not just a little Christmas gift thing, in which case I will talk about using construction board on the side panels as opposed to just the black card, but we can cover that in more detail next week. But again, you can sort of decorate these however you wish. But that's us done for this evening. So thanks so much for watching. If you've got any questions, do pop them into the comments section anyway, and I'll pick them up and answer those. This video will be sort of downloaded and edited and put onto our YouTube channel, so you can always get access to that from there, including any of our other ones. And if you haven't downloaded your instructions for the Quartetto range, I suggest you get it done ASAP, because we will be putting the price on that as from tomorrow. But if you haven't looked at any of the other ones that we've done as well, then obviously go in and have a little look. Okay, so that's this week done. These are for next week. So thanks so much for watching. As always, it's always a pleasure, and I love our little interaction. So, you know, it's nice to know that I'm not sat here on my own, just talking to myself, which is often normally the case. But yes, so I'll catch up with you lovely people, and I'll see you next week. So take care. Bye.